Hey Stampers, Kim from stampingimperfection.com. Thanks for joining me today. Welcome to my craft room. Before I forget, make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit the bell so you get alerted whenever I post a new video. I want to share with you a couple of cards that I'm making with this. This is actually May's Simon Says Stamp Delicate Flowers Kit. It came with some of Tim Holtz's new alcohol pearl inks in Sublime, Intrigue, and Tranquil, which means pink, green, and blue. And they're very pretty. I love these Simon Says stamp kits because they have a new one every month, and they throughout the year have some specialty ones. But look at all the stuff that you get in it. You get a lot of cardstock. I've already made a card with this, and so I've used some of that pretty pink. That's YUPO paper that I'm holding in my hand, and that's Tim Holtz YUPO paper that goes along with the alcohol inks. So you can see the colors I got along with that cotton candy pink. And one of my favorite things is the envelopes. They're always the metallic sheen. I love them. This sparkle paper that I'm holding in my hand is a new product. This is Tim Holtz Alcohol Ink Cardstock Silver Sparkle Paper, and it's super smooth compared to regular glitter or glimmer paper. It's not actually made of glitter from what I understand, and so it feels very smooth, but look at the sparkle. I really love it. This kit came with 6x6 inch pattern paper from ModaScrap. Super pretty. And these kits always come with some pretty pattern paper. And this one came with a Carta flower bouquet washi tape roll. And you always get a nice big stamp set with lots of images and lots of sentiments, or you'll get a couple smaller ones. So I always feel like these kits are good value. And I'm very excited because it came with these 3 different alcohol pearl inks and the alcohol ink blending solution. And I wasn't planning on purchasing these, so I'm kind of excited that it came in this kit so I can give it a try. And off to the side there you see that it always comes with ideas. Along with the list of what comes in the kit, it comes with ideas. So one thing that I have, this was something I accidentally ordered one too many of. Tim Holtz does a really good job of coming out with organizing products for organizing tools for his products, and that tin is for the alcohol ink. So I'm excited that I actually have a place to store. I already have a storage solution for these alcohol inks. I started by cutting one of the pieces of YUPO paper in half, so it's cut at 4.5 or 4.25 by 5.5, and sometimes I have trouble with the YUPO paper that I usually purchase. I have trouble telling which side I should be using. One side seems to spread the ink better than the other. So this particular paper though actually had a nice smooth feel. So I picked up the green, and I just started, putting drops of this on. I should have shaken it up first, and you'll see by the time I get to the 3rd bottle that I realize, ooh, I was supposed to shake that, because that pearlized stuff I believe comes from mica powder, and it's sitting on the bottom. So you can see that now I'm shaking it. It actually has a ball in these inks, which ordinary alcohol inks you don't have to shake. So I'm giving them a good shake. I'm trying to get rid of that what looks like a white coating on the bottom, and you can see immediately, see the sheen on the blue compared to the other two. Now I could see the sparkle even though I hadn't shaken it, but look at the difference when you forget to shake it compared to when you shake it. So I'm just adding all 3 colors. Isn't that pretty? The sparkle is unbelievable. So I'm just going to add some alcohol ink blending solution. I actually have 3 lights shining on this, so it's drying pretty quickly. And that alcohol ink blending solution, or regular isopropyl alcohol, 70% isopropyl alcohol, will actually reactivate your inks, believe it or not. Even when they're dry, you can reactivate them and get them to spread and run down the paper, which is pretty fun. Now you'll notice that my finger is blue, and oops, see, I just squirted that across. So later I'm going to do a little separate video on some things not to do when using the alcohol pearl inks, or alcohol inks in general. I found that these actually really squirt it out of the bottle a lot differently than my regular alcohol inks. It was pretty funny. But I'm just like randomly adding these, adding some alcohol ink blending solution, which I love because it allows it, or it helps your ink to spread out a little. And I'm just using a straw to blow it around. I don't usually do this step, but I just wanted to give it a try on this video and see what kind of difference it made, see if it helped them spread around a little bit. And like they were, this particular time, these were drying pretty quickly. So I was just trying to play with it. Now, that's a lot, that's a pretty busy background. So I'm going to have to decide what I want to do with that ink. And I'm going to let this dry, and there'll be a point where it's a little bit sticky, and that's where you can add your foil. If you want to do some foiling effects, you can add it when it gets to that sticky stage. So now I just want to try two different colors. I'm going to use the blue and the green, and I'm just putting a bunch of drops on, adding some alcohol ink blending solution, and you can see that sparkle, and I'm just blowing it around, which does not affect the sparkle. I just like the way you get the dark and light spots. It almost looks like a cloud or water, or I just want to fill in some of the blue spots here. And again, like you can see that I only really set that down for a few seconds, and that sparkly mica powder, I believe it's mica powder, settles to the bottom pretty quickly. So literally every time I pick this up, I felt like I had to shake it. And I also learned to tap it and turn it right side up and tap it, and then take the lid off, and then flip it over really fast and squirt it. So you can see, and I like this Tim Holtz YUPO paper better than the brand that I usually just pick up at my local craft store. I don't even know what that is, to be honest. But I actually like this a little bit better. I actually think it's spreading better, and I'm getting nice vibrant color on it. I really like it. So again, I just played around with the straw just to see what effects I could get. And I always cut it at 4.5 by 5, or 4.25 by 5.5. Sometimes I even cut the paper bigger because I like to trim off the edges. And you notice I didn't completely fill that. Now I took a strip of this silver sparkle paper just to see. I have no idea what to do with this, but I'm assuming you put your alcohol inks on. So I decided to drip some on, blow it around, and see what happened. And I was surprised because the sparkle went away. Once I put the alcohol inks on part of my head, the sparkle went away. It was like the sparkle completely disappeared. So I thought, well, maybe if I thin it a little bit with the alcohol blending solution, but that didn't make a difference. So I was kind of disappointed because it gave me sort of a flat look, and I decided, well, maybe if I try a different way to apply the ink. So I decided to pull out that green, and I pulled out a couple cotton rounds. You could use, actually that might be one cotton round, and I'm just going to squirt it on the edge of that cotton round. I like to add my alcohol inks this way. Sometimes I'll put 2 or 3 colors on the edge of one of these alcohol rounds, and then just swipe it across. So I'm kind of like rubbing it on, which makes it pretty light, and still it dulled the sparkle, which surprised me. I can still see the sparkle on the green end better than I can the blue end, but I decided to put it aside. It still feels exactly the same. It's super smooth, but like I can see this sparkle on the green end, but not really on the blue end. So I was kind of surprised about that. So I put it aside, and it turns out the next day when I came down and that was completely dry, you could actually see the sparkle again. So the sparkle comes out again when the ink is dry. So I decided that the backgrounds were kind of busy, so I wanted to pull out a die that I had gotten. I got 2 sets of dies in the last couple of months from Simon Says that I have not actually played with. The first one is the peking frog, and so cute. And you saw how tiny that was. And the other one are the rounded corner rectangles. So I took those over to my Big Shot machine and I cut out the frog in the corner, and then I did a little fancy die cutting, and I'll do a separate video on this technique because I wanted to have an open rectangle. I want to put that alcohol ink background in there, and I really wanted to show. So I cut this in a way, so I only rolled it part of the way through my die cut machine, and then I turned the whole thing 90 degrees and then rolled it part of the way again to create like this opening. I didn't want to cut the frog out of the project. I just wanted to cut around the frog, and then I just trimmed it down. So I really, really like the way that looks. Now it comes with those two little eye inserts, which I'll add later. So now I just have to pick which background. They're completely dry. You can see I touched them, and surprisingly, they actually have a sort of chalky feel. But I think that's the sparkle. It has so much sparkle. I wish you could see the sparkle on camera. And I decided I really like this one with the two different colors. It's so pretty. I just love the way it looks with the dark and the light. So I'm going to really cover the back of this with some of my 3M foam tape. I really love this foam tape. It's just an easy product to use, and I buy it in bulk on Amazon from some electrical supply company, and I feel like I save money doing that. So I usually have a couple rolls laying around, and they last forever. I bet in 3 years, this is only the fourth roll that I just opened. So it lasts a long time, and I make a lot of cards. So you can see I really covered it. I cut little pieces down to fit the whole back. I saved leftover pieces. So I'm just going to put that on top, and I'm going to add those little eye die cut pieces that are sitting on the die to that card in a minute. So I've got a card base that's cut 5.5 by 8.5, and I just scored it at 4.25. I'm just using my Score Buddy and my Teflon bone folder, and then I'm just going to use some two-sided sticky tape. I don't know why. I seem to reach for this now more than the glue. I'm not sure why. The liquid glue, I usually use the Tombow Mono liquid glue, which I really like, but for some reason I just seem to be grabbing this. I think probably because this is on the left side of my little die stamp and supply tool storage thing, and the glue is on the right hand side, and I always reach with my left hand. That is no doubt why, but the glue will give you some wiggle room. This won't. So you want to make sure when you're putting it down with this double-sided tape, you get it exactly where you want it, or there's no second chances. I've got a little bit of the edge hanging off on the bottom, so I'm just trimming that off. I love those scissors. Those are the 7-inch or 9-inch Tim Holtz non-stick shears, and I love them. So I just put those little eyes in with a pair of tweezers and a little bit of the multimedia mat, and I like the way this looks a lot, except it feels super white. And I decided not to use one of the sentiments from the kit because I didn't feel like they were long enough. They were short and squatty, and I wanted something longer. I wanted a bold sentiment. So I pulled out one of my favorite hello. This is a script hello from Simon Says, and I use this so much. I like it because it's got 2 layers. So I cut out a piece of white cardstock and then a piece of white foam, which I have that 2-sided sticky sheet on, and I'm just putting the white cardstock on top of that. So that's going to give me a white base, and then I cut out a piece of black for the top part, so I feel like that's a nice bold sentiment. And I like that the white kind of pulls some of the white toward the center, if that makes sense. And it's still, the bright colored background is my focal point, I feel. So I'm using one of these EK Tools liner pens, and I'm just going to put a curved line and 2 dots at the beginning and end of the curved line on the 3 sides. I could go around the whole edge of that with some kind of, you know, hand lining, but that's all I wanted. I just wanted to, um, I don't know, it felt just so plain and empty, and I couldn't leave it like that. So I'm adding some iridescent sequins. These are my Studio Katia iridescent sequins. I have a lot of sequins. These kits come with sequins a lot, so you know, you make a few cards with them, and then you have a nice amount of leftover sequins. And that's going to complete my card. I just put 3 on. I just like a little sparkle along with all the other sparkle. So now I'm going to take this other background and I'm going to use the other half of that cotton candy piece. That's 8.5 by 5.5, and I'm going to score it at 4.25, and that's going to be my base. Pretty color, isn't it? Super pretty. It's cotton candy cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. So again, I do love this Teflon bone folder and my score buddy. I like the little score buddy. It fits nicely on my desk. I love this Tim Holtz guillotine cutter also. I'm cutting off 1/8 of an inch. It really lets me just cut little slivers off. And I'm cutting 1/8 of an inch all around. So this alcohol ink background piece is going to be 4 by 5.25. And I'm just going to attach that. This time I'll use the liquid glue so that, nope, I lied. I'm going to use the 2-sided sticky tape because it's sitting right in front of me. So I'll just put that on and I'll do my best to center it. And this is really bold. This is a super busy background. So I don't want to do anything too crazy. Now I love that big floral there, but the problem with, well, actually the Simon Says has a big floral on it too, but I don't have the die that goes with it, and I wasn't in the mood to fussy cut. So I pulled out my Altenew Dearest Friend stamp and die set because it had a big bold floral image that I could just stamp and then die cut easily. I was going to have to fussy cut the Simon Says one because I didn't get the die yet for that, although they do have it. So I'm just going to stamp this in black ink, and I'm going to use my Simon Says Intense Black in my Misty. I love this little mini Misty. I use this constantly. Whatever stamp positioner you use, you know, like for big bold things like this, I get much better images. And the same thing with sentiments. I feel like I do a better job getting sentiments straight, and if I have to, I can you know, stamp them more than once. So I really like that. I think my sentiments are turning out a lot nicer. And I'm again going to ink this up in black, but I'm going to use, I pull out a couple different inks before I finally decide. This is a super tiny sentiment. I pulled out my VersaFine detail ink because the sentiment letters are so tiny, and it says, the sentiment says, "I'm so lucky to have you," so I really like that. So I'm just going to ink that up, and the detail ink allows you to see every letter, and the ink doesn't like smush in and make the M look like a blob. So I'm going to pull out my tonic cutter and just cut around that image. Now I cut out the die cut, and I cut out a piece of craft foam, and I'm just going to glue the die cut because I forgot to put my 2-sided sticky tape on this and die cut at the same time. So I'm just using my liquid glue, and plus that'll give me time to fuss with it. Like sometimes I really need to fuss with things, so I'm going to put that down. And I put the sentiment on and decided I need something more. So I went and die cut out a thank you sentiment, and I believe this is a Concord and 9th thank you sentiment. So I'm leaving this black and white. I've seen a lot of these on Pinterest lately like this with a good background and then a black and white image. And I think one of the, I think they actually had one of those on their idea sheets also. So I die cut that thank you in black cardstock. I'm not putting it up on foam tape or anything, but I'm going to put that right in the center of that black and white image, and that beautiful color is just going to stand out in back. And then I'm going to take some, I bought a whole bunch of these Stampin' Up! Foam strips. I really like them. They're nice and easy to cut down, and they're like maybe an eighth of an inch, so I can use them for all kinds of things. I can't use them with the foam tape because they're thicker than the foam tape, and I'm kind of wishing I had slid that up a little bit so I hadn't cut the U off so much, but I actually like the way that looks. I think that is a nice, quick, and easy way to make a card. So I'm going to take some more of those iridescent um, Studio Katia sequins and put those on. So I got two nice cards pretty quickly out of playing around with the alcohol inks and some of the dies and stamp sets that I've purchased recently and haven't had a lot of time to play with. And looking at that now this is set overnight and you can see the sparkle is back on both ends. Pretty. Thanks for watching. Stop on my blog at stampingimperfection.com.